Hot Tubers, Jeff Lindsay in the garage with you Saturday the 14th of March. We left off finishing up the core and starting on the driver's side fender. And as you can see from where we left off the other day, we hadn't done anything. So we're out a little bit this afternoon and we're going to try to get this a little better. There's something under here in that frame area where it bolts that's stopping this fender from going any further under. And even if it did go any further under, I'm not sure I could get the bolts in. It would be beyond those bolts where they go up in the little frame area. So we need to visit the door and see if we need to come out with the door. You can see the rocker here. The door is not proud of the rocker. The rocker is actually a little proud of the bottom of the door. Not 100% sure. I feel like they probably just need to be flush, which means the door could come out about 1/8 of an inch, but that wouldn't take care of this. But when you push in on this just a little, it moves enough. I think maybe we can make it up with both. So that's what we're going to start on, is trying to get the door out just a little bit and then get the fender in. I went ahead earlier and didn't video, and I wish I had. I went ahead earlier and set the hood in place, and we had done that originally way back and came up with some measurements, 55 and 13/16 from that area, 58 from this area would give us the clearance we need, or the door hood gaps with the fenders. And we remeasured, and I wrote these measurements down the second time. I got 56 front and 58 1/8 in the back. That could be just a little wide, but 3/16 here, 1/8 inch here, you can work with that. You're talking about a 1/16 on each side in the back, and and less than 1/8 in the front. So that's fairly close just for setting it up there and looking at it. But again, the issue is this driver's side fender. We've got to get that. We've got to get that gap better. And it's not so much the gap as it is just the fender being proud of the door or outside of the door. So we'll get busy working on that. And as soon as we figure something out, we'll bring you along. Alright, as you can tell, the door is pulled out. Just took probably 10 minutes. Take the fender off out of the way, loosen the hinge bolts up and pull that door out, and it's actually just a hair outside the rocker. So that should help us in this area here when we put the fender back on. At least that's the hope. That's the plan. Alright, we'll stick the fender on there and bring you along. Alright, Tubers, we're still at it. After pulling the door out, putting the fender back on, I can probably live with that. I went in the other room in there and cut a 1/4 inch shim or block and rechecked it with a pair of calipers. And it's dead on a 1/4 inch, and it won't go in there until you get right in that area right there, and it just does slide in there then. But looking at it, I was thinking, man, that looks like the Grand Canyon there. That's a terrible gap, but apparently it's not that bad. It's fairly close. The fender from the body line down is slightly proud of the door. I mean, very slightly. So I think I can live with it. Once it's all, I did take some black spray paint and just the places around the door where I had cleaned up when I folded the edges on the skin. I just touched that up so it'll all be one color looking at it up and down. And it's not terrible. I mean, it's not bad at all. I think I'm gonna live with it. I think I'm gonna deal with that. I went ahead and bolted everything up tight. This fender's tight. The hinge bolt, the top, the firewall bolt, the bottom bolts. The only one that I don't have completely tight is this one, and I don't think it really matters so much. That's where it's got to live with all those others tightened up. These two right here. So I'm going to kind of call this one pretty good. Maybe not 100% good, but pretty good. And move on over to the other one. Hopefully it'll be a lot easier. We shall see. Bring it along. All right, tubers, Jeff Lindsay in the garage, Tuesday the 17th. We hadn't done anything in a day or so, so we're going to get out here and start on the passenger side fender. And what the plan is to get all the bolts in this one just like we did the other one, get the gap lined up as good as we can, and maybe start on that header panel. I got my core braces that go on the sides that need to go on. Make sure they'll bolt up. The skirts, I've got to make sure they'll bolt up. So a lot to do. Just take it one step at a time. Passenger side fender is next. We'll bring you along. Get that ball. Get that ball. Get that ball. Rumor. Get that ball. Get the ball. Good boy. Rumor. October, Jeff Lindsay in the garage. Wednesday the 18th of March. We've been working on the passenger side fender, and we've got it fairly close. A little bit of a gap, more of a gap than we want at the bottom, but we had it. And then as soon as we put the final snugging up of the bolts underneath, it moved a little, and it was probably because I didn't have that one good and tight first. But we know it'll go right back. It's maybe a 16th to an 1/8 out, not much. I'm not really worried. Went ahead and snugged everything down, and I kind of like this side a little better than the other side. It was a lot easier. We dropped the header panel on, put a couple of bolts in the top, just got it hanging on. And I need to refer to the manual. It's been so long. I've got to look at all these different brackets, braces, bolts. I've got to look and make sure. I don't want to just sit here and put in a couple of bolts and look at the book. Maybe if I look, it'll refresh my memory a little bit, and I can make a little progress and then refer back again if I have to. Again, walking back around to where we left off with the driver's side, not too disappointed in the way that looks. Not too bad. Obviously, there'll be some little tweaking here and there. We pulled square from the top fender bolts out to the tip of the fender each way. We pulled square, and we've got a little bit of an issue there. It could be just as simple as moving this core over one that way, I think. All this is still relatively loose. I'm hoping that that's all it is, but I'm going to revisit the subframe first, make sure we're as square as we can get with the subframe, and then we'll come back up here and move this around and see if we can get that without throwing any issues in with the gaps that we've got. Probably should have pulled square on this thing first, but we'll figure it out. It won't be too bad maybe from here. Once we get the header panel and the lower valence attached and get all the bolts in there, we'll put the grill in it. That'll give us some support out front. We'll snug everything down a little bit, and then we'll start with these aggravating fender skirts, wheel wells, whatever you'd like to call them. I'm waiting till last on that. I want these things supported. I want the fenders supported front to back, and then we'll go with it. Also, the hinges for the hood, I think I've already sandblasted them, but I need to find them. I'm gonna mount them and then mount the hood latch. I want to get this thing put together, working, gapped up, good enough so that when we start to do some jam paint work, stuff like that, you know, we've still got the firewall to do. I mean, there's tons of stuff to do. So we just want to make sure we can get the car together, get it apart, get it back together without it being a nightmare. If there's any modifications to be done, now's the time to do it. That's the plan. We're going to go in, look at the book, take a little break the rest of the afternoon, come back tomorrow, do a little more. And we'll look at the time on these video clips that I've got. If I'm close to 12, 14 minutes, we'll let you look at what we've done. And we'll start something new. All right, tubers, we'll get after it.